have to really escalate the noise we make so that we'll be heard.
Welcome to Gay USA. I'm Andy Hum.
I'm Ann Northrup.
And in the news this week, we start with a breakthrough in New York for non-biological, unmarried co-parents of adopted children.
I know you can't follow that, but we'll explain in detail. It'll become much easier and clearer. Also very clear, one of Donald Trump's new campaign managers, turns out, has, among other things, a history of throwing around anti-lesbian slurs.
We told you about that horrible story in Atlanta where somebody threw boiling water on a sleeping gay couple in his house and injured them severely. Well, he just got a 40-year sentence.
A federal judge has done a good thing blocking enforcement of HB 2 in North Carolina as it relates to several students at the University of North Carolina.
A prominent contributor to the anti-transgender cause now says he's sorry and will bring you his apology.
Anti-gay terrorists have been arrested in Las Vegas and Sydney, but 7 are still at large in Salem, Massachusetts.
In Woodside, Queens, there was a rally for the transgender woman who was attacked with a hammer to the head.
What are the LGBT-friendliest colleges and universities in the country? Campus Pride just came out with a list, along with its shame list of the bad ones.
And in the Los Angeles area, there's a deadly outbreak of a bacterial infection that we're going to tell you about.
And we'll review the movie Florence Foster Jenkins with Meryl Streep, Hugh Grant, and Simon Helberg.
Yeah.
And a reminder to those of you who see us through the good offices of Free Speech TV, they're going into pledge mode for a few weeks, so they're changing their schedule of airing us for a little while. But plenty of chances still to see us Friday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, Saturday at 7 p.m. Eastern, and Sunday at 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. Eastern Time. That's September 6th through 25th. They revert to regular schedule September 26th.
That's correct. And the New York State Court of Appeals has corrected itself.
Well, it's fascinating because in 1991, they handed down a decision that's known as the Allison D decision. And we've all been tearing our hair out about that one ever since because it seems so unjust. But
well, here's the deal. When you're an unmarried couple living together and one of you adopts a child,
or gives birth to a child.
Yes, and you know, you're not related to the child and you don't do a co-adoption and all this kind of stuff.
Or get married.
Yeah, you have no rights to visitation or anything like that if you break up.
Under the Allison D decision.
Yes.
Now, that didn't exactly make sense. And so what the New York State Court of Appeals has now done very intelligently is very specifically say they are overturning the Allison D decision, which I love. When the court says we are overturning this precedent, I think that's particularly
useful. We're very happy
useful.
when they overturned the sodomy decision and allowed us to have sodomy 17 years later.
In this case, it's a little different. So the court said we're overturning Allison D because it makes no sense. If this was a case of a lesbian couple who broke up, they were together, they agreed to have a child, they agreed on who was going to bear the child, and then once the child was born, it was given the last name of the non-biological mother, who proceeded to be fully involved in the rearing of the child for several years.
But had no legal rights.
They weren't married because New York State had not legalized marriage yet. They could have gone to Massachusetts, but that's another story. They chose not to. They stayed in New York. They had the child. They raised the child together for several years. Then they broke up. The non-biological mother continued to be involved in the raising of the child even after they broke up. But then at some point, the biological mother said, that's the end of it. You can no longer be involved in the raising of the child.
Because of Allison D., the old decision.
Well, because I don't want you involved in the raising of the child. And when the non-biological mother went to court to say, wait a minute, I'm the mother too, the court first said, Allison D., you have no rights. And it got appealed up through the system. And now the highest court in New York State has said, we're overruling Allison D. It was unjust. It made no sense. And certainly everyone should have a chance to prove their rights to visitation or partial custody based on the reality of their situation, not based on artificial constructs like whether you have a marriage license or who gave birth to the child.
We do urge you to take advantage of some of these artificial constructs, which will make it a lot simpler, because all that this lesbian couple has won, or this woman has won who wants to shared visitation again, is the right to prove that she has this relationship with the child.
I'm not urging anyone to take advantage of any artificial constructs.
Makes things easier.
Oh, please.
Well, no,
there are a lot of ways it makes life harder.
Okay, I'm just saying there are rights that are available to us now that weren't before. You can say, we don't believe in marriage, we don't believe in this, we don't believe in that. You're going to find out when you go to court after things break up what's going to happen.
But
all I was saying is
people have choices.
It will make things easier for you.
In some ways.
Yes.
Not necessarily in every way.
I agree. We agree on this.
We do. I knew we did.
Okay.
At any rate, we're very happy with this decision, and this makes much more sense. And now people can go to court and make decisions about both custody and visitation based on the reality of what's best for the child.
All right, let's go back. Let's go down to North Carolina.
Okay.
Another court decision. It's a limited ruling. A federal judge barred the University of North Carolina from enforcing the bathroom bill provision of HB 2, which is that very bad law down there, yes.
Well, 3 students at the University of North Carolina went into court and said, hey, we want to be able to use the bathrooms that are applicable to our gender presentation and identity on a day-to-day basis. And so the court said, as this is all being litigated, as it is being appealed to the Supreme Court or whatever, we are going to forbid the University of North Carolina from enforcing the provisions of HB 2 that would not allow you to use the bathrooms of your current gender identity. And Lambda Legal has now gone into court to try to expand that ruling and get the court to say that, in fact, it applies more widely than just to those 3 students.
And on the other side, the Gavin Grimm case. This is a transgender boy in Virginia who was dying to go to the bathroom, the right bathroom, and he won, but the Virginia School District has gone to the United States Supreme Court asking them to hear its appeal in this case. And in the meantime, Gavin can't use the boys' room.
Right, because the appeals court there, or was it the Supreme Court, said pending in the appeal, we're going to leave in place his inability to use the bathroom. It's a mess.
Well, as long as you want to stay on legal stuff.
Sure.
Lambda Legal also filed a petition seeking a rehearing in the full U.S. Court of Appeals for the Seventh Circuit on behalf of Kimberly Hively. Is that her name?
Yes.
An instructor who was denied promotion for full-time employment at Ivy Tech College, Community College, because she is a lesbian.
This is Indiana. The 3-judge panel said that she could not use Title VII.
Sex discrimination.
Yes, for sexual orientation. This is not transgender, this is sexual orientation.
Yep.
They denied her plea on that grounds because they said they had to on the basis of precedent. So Lambda has gone back into court and said, actually, you should be using that. So we'll see where they get with that.
To clear all this up, we need the artificial construct of the Equality Act passed by the federal government, and the California state legislature, and I think all state legislatures and city legislatures should do this, is urging the Congress to pass the Equality Act.
I don't think that would be an artificial construct.
Well,
in Atlanta, we've
Constitution is an artificial construct.
partially authored by one of my ancestors. I'm not calling that artificial.
It's true.
In Atlanta, we've been following the case of a man who saw his nephew sleeping with another guy on the couch, I think, in the living room.
Wasn't he the mother's boyfriend?
I thought he was the uncle,
Maybe.
but whatever. Older guy, two young men. He saw them together. He goes into the kitchen.
Yep.
He takes out a pot.
Yep.
He fills it with water. He puts it on the stove, brings it to a boil,
Rolling boil.
and then goes and dumps it on these guys. Here's one of the victims.
This is in court this week, past week.
Yes,
That's,
months later.
That's Anthony.
Yeah.
And
He spent a month in the hospital, 2 weeks of it in an induced coma. The other guy spent 10 days in the hospital. They had skin grafts. The defense of the guy who did it was not intentional.
Oh, his lawyer said, hey, it's one act. It caused injury. It was distasteful. It was disrespectful, but it was not deadly.
Or malicious. Malicious.
Well, the court didn't buy it, and they're giving him 40 years.
Now, I do think 40 years is quite a long sentence.
It's basically attempted murder. We don't know what else it was.
He was convicted on 10 counts, but 40 years. 40 years? Really?
As the prosecutor said, you don't have the right to hurt because you don't like how they live their life.
Absolutely
Got it?
not. Absolutely not. I'm fine with a guy getting prison time, but 40 years sounds like a lot. There are people who kill people, who do kill people, who get shorter terms.
You're soft on crime.
I don't think
That's
so.
not funny. What these guys went through was so horrific.
Horrible.
Probably the sentencing, I don't know this for a fact, may have had something to do with other things that he did that, add time and all that kind of stuff. We don't know.
All right. Well, let's visit our new favorite terrorist, Bryce Quaylar, in Las Vegas.
Yep.
He
Got a picture of him.
I'm so fond of this picture.
There he is.
He threatened to what? Kill
He got
gay
drunk.
people?
He got drunk. He did a tape saying he was going to go out and kill gay people. It's not very bright, Bryce.
No, don't post your picture looking like
He
this.
says, I was drunk.
He doesn't look drunk.
How do people get drunk and produce videotapes?
I have a suggestion.
Yes.
Don't get so drunk.
Yes. Well, they're keeping him out on bail. I mean, he's not like, But
Oh, my God.
Why isn't this
Watch out, Las
Why
Vegas.
isn't this terrorism? If
He was threatening terrorist
yes,
attacks.
if he was Middle Eastern, you know where he would be right now.
It's
Terrible.
Ay,
and
ay,
why don't they lock? Well, I don't know if they need to lock him up, but actually they're keeping him under wraps. Trump's campaign manager, Steve Bannon. So
He's not allowed out in public.
they're digging up stuff that he's done. This is the campaign manager, the third one.
No, campaign CEO.
Oh, well, whatever.
Kellyanne Conway, that line, whatever,
Person.
is the manager.
So anyway, Steve Bannon is on the radio, I guess, right? He's
This is a few years ago.
Yeah. And he says,
2011.
Says the liberals are down on women like Sarah Palin and Michelle Bachmann and Ann Coulter. And he says, in fact, the women who would lead this country would be there. We object, he says, to women who would be pro-family,
We
who
meaning
have
us.
husbands, who love their children. They wouldn't be a bunch of dykes that come from the Seven Sisters School up in New England. That drives the left insane, and that's why they hate these women. Dykes from Seven Sisters.
That would be me.
Yeah.
And many people I know. But I want to point out that Ann Coulter and Laura Ingraham went to Ivy League colleges, Cornell and Dartmouth. And, you know, we don't hate women of any kind. It's you, Steve Bannon, who hates women, and Trump who hates women. The story this week about Trump
it's like calling Hillary a bigot all the time.
Oh, my God. It's just surviving these lies. And they don't challenge Kellyanne Conway. I'm so sick of that. And then you have Governor LePage in Maine, who is also throwing around homophobic slurs.
Yes, we can't even say it on this family-orientated show.
Even though, thank you, even though it was Richard Nixon's favorite word.
It was. It begins with a C and it ends in sucker.
Yeah. But people are going to vote for these people.
Just as Rudy Giuliani would say, just Google it.
Yeah.
But he's quite the monster.
He is going totally over the edge.
Yes.
All right. In other news of violence against the LGBT community, we have the lovely children of Salem, Massachusetts.
Are you sure they're children? They're all dressed in black. Well, here's the thing. There's a newspaper there called the Rainbow Times, and they have boxes around the city to give you the newspaper, and it's been vandalized before. So
as have boxes like that in this town.
In New York.
Sorry, we don't have the video. We're having a few technical problems, so let us continue. We have a little good news in the violence area. The two Orlando, Florida hospitals, Orlando Health and Florida hospitals, will not be charging the victims of the Pulse massacre. That's good news. That's saving about $5-point-something million. They expect to get reimbursed from some government funds or insurance.
A lot of money was collected, but
not enough to pay all the
Of course, whenever
bills.
I see these examples, my attitude is like, everybody needs universal health care. You know, it shouldn't just be for people that we care about or like or who suffered terribly. Everybody, you know, anybody we need Medicare for all, folks.
And the charming pastor from Georgia who said after the Orlando massacre that the victims got what they deserved has now been arrested on charges of molesting a young man who was in his care a few years ago. The young man turned him in. He, of course, says that the young man is disturbed and these charges are not real.
Okay.
We don't know. We don't know, but that's the charge that's been made.
Our friends at Gays Against Guns made the scene in Washington, D.C. this week. We have a picture there. They're outside the Lincoln Memorial there. They're strewn all over the steps. And
in back are the people dressed in white who represent the Orlando victims and others who have been killed by guns around the country.
Okay.
The next Gays Against Guns meeting, by the way, in New York, and their chapters springing up all over, is next Thursday, the 8th at the Community Center at 208 West 13th Street at 7:30 p.m.
In New York?
Yeah. And we should acknowledge that we have viewers who don't like it when we talk about Gays Against Guns because they believe in...
They're gays for guns.
Well, they
Pink
believe...
pistols.
Yes, and they believe
with
in
chapters
gun
all over the
ownership.
country. Yes.
I'm technically not against gun ownership. I just don't... it's just not safe.
As President Obama said, the idea that I'm trying to take away your guns is a canard. He said gun ownership during my administration has gone way up.
Because people feel that they're going to have their guns taken away.
You can't blame him.
Yeah. Anyway, good news on a long-running case of an Air Force lieutenant, Josh Seafried. He's an out gay member of the Air Force who was charged for an incident in a New York City hotel in 2012. He and a couple of other guys, according to him, had agreed to go to the hotel for a three-way. But one of the guys charged, in fact, that he had been raped by Seafried. Seyfried adamantly denied this, said it was all consensual. This went through layers and layers of litigation.
Years and years.
Yes. And he has finally now been completely acquitted of sexual assault.
Yep.
The third guy said that corroborated the story that it was consensual.
Let's go back to some transgender news, which continues to dominate in many respects. In Texas, the ACLU of Texas has issued a letter to Texas school districts saying, you may have gotten an injunction about the federal government doing certain things around this. You still have a legal responsibility to provide transgender students access to educational opportunities in school facilities on the same basis as other students. And Ken Paxton wrote the schools, who's the attorney general down there, who got this little injunction from this judge that he shopped for. Saying that the guide, you don't have to abide by the guidelines from the federal government. So that's going back and forth. That
leaves people in a pickle. There is, if we can take this picture a little out of sequence, there's a mom in Texas with a trans son.
There she is, Amber Briggle. She has an 8-year-old son, and she wrote to. They're from Denton. They wrote to Paxton, who's the Attorney General, who's anti-trans, and the Lieutenant Governor, Patrick, who's anti-trans. And she says, why don't you come over for dinner? And Paxton told the Dallas TV reporter he is up for it, and plans are supposed to be in the works for this dinner.
We will keep an eye on that and see whether he actually shows up and see whether it makes any impact on him. Because the interesting thing about people like Paxton is they can meet people in person. They can have a personable interchange with them and trot right off and do these bigoted things again.
Dan Savage had a summit with the head of the National Organization for Marriage, Brian Brown.
Yes.
And that didn't produce anything, did it?
No, these guys are dedicated to their official bigotry.
Right.
In let's see where we are. Yes, in Queens, New York, there was a rally on behalf of a trans woman, Gabby.
Oh, just Gabby. There's Gabby in the red there. Gabby, a couple of weeks ago, was hit over the head with a hammer by an assailant saying, "This is what you get for being gay." Gabby is transgender. So all the power of New York turned out in Woodside, Queens. That's Jimmy Van Bramer, the majority leader behind her, Tish James, the public advocate of New York, and the controller of the city of New York, Scott Stringer. They were all out there for her, and they're all obviously very sympathetic, and they want to say, "We stand with you. This is not what Woodside, Queens is about." But what are we going to do about this? What they call an epidemic of violence in New York against trans women, especially trans women of color. We tell you it's happening all across the country. What are you going to do about it? I suggested, why not put cops undercover to walk the streets? Because you do get attacked for just walking while trans. Let's do that.
Maybe Donald Trump will do that. I think the reason he says he's going to make like Chicago safer, where all the murders are, is because he wants to flood the neighborhoods with cops and probably every armed person he can think of. And his pitch is this is going to make those neighborhoods safer.
Yeah, and Mexico's going to pay for it.
It's not going to make those neighborhoods safer.
Okay. Can we go back to the Seattle?
Sure.
The guy who's the chef at the Seahawks Stadium, John Howie, he donated $1,000 to the Washington anti-transgender bathroom group, which is called Just Want Privacy.
Because they were trying to have a referendum.
And he signed a petition opposing transgender bathrooms, and his LGBT friends and our allies got on his case. So he's sorry now, and we're going to show you his apology.
It looks a little like a hostage video, but we think he's sincere.
He did it.
Yeah.
John Howie.
We don't have this video.
Oh, okay.
All right, we're having a little video.
Well, he did make an apology.
He did, and it was abject.
He said he believes that Jesus loves all people.
It did seem absolutely sincere, as opposed to some people who don't seem so sincere. In Oregon, a Salem trans woman, Linda Thompson, was caught robbing a Wyoming bank. It turns out she did it on purpose because she wants to go back to prison. She has spent some. She had been in prison before. She, in fact, castrated herself in an Idaho prison, but got
Can we get a
hormones.
picture up there?
Yeah, we have a picture of Linda Thompson, bank robber. There she is.
There she is.
And she had spent time homeless. She was beaten on the streets.
She became an advocate for transgender prisoners.
Yes, and so she got
But
her
prison is home to me, she says. And she wanted to go back.
roof over her head, 3 meals a day, maybe not beaten up as much. She was in a men's prison in Idaho. I don't know whether she will be assigned
Well,
to
she
a
lobbied
women's
and
prison.
got hormone treatment in prison.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. In California, a trans man was scheduled to go to Carmichael, California, was scheduled to go into the hospital for a hysterectomy.
He's trans.
Yes, well, when he said just before the surgery that he wanted to be acknowledged as trans with male pronouns,
Yes.
They said, whoa, wait a minute, we didn't pay close enough attention to this. We're not giving you a hysterectomy.
I don't know where this is in the catechism. I know the Pope is very anti-trans.
I'll tell you where it is. Here's their explanation, this Catholic hospital that would not give the trans man a hysterectomy. We don't do unnecessary sterilizations.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, that's their explanation.
That's shocking.
Exactly.
It's shocking. Give it a rest, all right? I don't think this is what Jesus would want you to do.
Yeah.
But
And a little, I mentioned Chicago, a little statistic from Chicago. Same-sex marriage has been legal in Chicago for just 2.5 years,
Yes.
since February 2014. How many marriage licenses have been issued to same-sex couples in Cook County in 2.5 years? Answer?
is it 2,000?
10,000.
Wow! Well, there must have been a big pent-up demand.
Yes, I think so.
Okay. I was going to say 10,000 because that's what I read earlier in the week.
But then you decided not to trust your lying eyes?
No.
In Scottsdale, Arizona, they've decided not to do a sexual orientation non-discrimination law. Which we're not unhappy about because the proposal had an exemption for businesses with fewer than 15 employees.
Yeah, so our side couldn't go for it.
Because it would have exempted 85% of the businesses in Scottsdale. Well, that's a good indication of how small businesses really are.
Yes.
Endemic to this country.
In Seattle, now this is a city now with a openly gay mayor, but a guy moved into an apartment run by the Seattle Housing Authority, and he had a neighbor who started harassing him and calling him a faggot and all this kind of stuff, and he complained about it, and they wanted to get rid of him. So he is finally
troublemaker.
Yes, he has finally complained to the Department of Housing and Urban Development, all this kind of stuff, and is finally getting some action on this. The HUD found that the Seattle Housing Authority subjected him to discriminatory harassment due to his sexual orientation in violation of the Seattle Municipal Code.
Okay. Campus Pride is the organization that monitors conditions for LGBT students around the country, and they have just issued their annual report on the best and worst colleges and universities for LGBT students.
They got a good list and a shame list.
Yes. Extensive shame list. It includes all those religious universities that have asked for Title IX exemptions so they can overtly discriminate against LGBT people.
Mostly they're religious schools, mostly Southern Baptist, some Catholic. One Quaker school is on the bad list.
Wow.
But some of the best schools on this list are in states that don't even have LGBT rights. Indiana, University of Indiana in Bloomington, Elon University in North Carolina, and the University of Louisville in Kentucky are on the good list.
I have to say I was also surprised to see Penn State on the good list, but we got a note from Penn State alum who included a picture of Penn State students at a demonstration, an LGBT rights demonstration in Philadelphia in 1972.
Wow.
There they are, homophiles of Penn State.
Yeah, homophile was a big word back then.
Yes, so that's from 44 years ago. Penn State students were out demonstrating for LGBT rights.
And we do.
But you can go to campuspride.org to get the full list of both the good places and the bad places.
In other sports news, the Vermont women's basketball team canceled its December game against North Carolina in Chapel Hill because of the bad bathroom bill down there.
The U.S. Department of Labor has issued final regulations for federal contractors on non-discrimination on the basis of sexual orientation and gender identity. When the Obama administration issued its executive order, it needed implementing regulations, and those have now been issued by the Department of Labor, so that should all
Sure to be challenged by Attorney General Ken Paxton of Texas.
Well, the Attorney General of New York State has also issued pro-trans employee policy regulations. One wonders.
Eric Schneiderman.
Yes.
Now, last week we told you that the professional soccer player Robbie Rogers of the LA Galaxy said he was repeatedly called a queer by an opponent from the Orange County Blues in the United Soccer League. And so the league has suspended that player, Richard Chaplow, for the incident, although Chaplow says he hurled angry words at Rogers that were not homophobic. He says he has a family member who is a member of the LGBT community.
Oh, well then, sorry.
Well, who knows? I mean, I wasn't.
No, people use these words and they act, they use them so routinely that it doesn't occur to them that they are homophobic terms, and the world needs a little education.
We had Mick Meenan on this show, who was, sexually attacked when he was in high school many years ago, and he talked about this, and he talked about going to the headmaster of the school and the guy saying, "What are you, a queer?" And then the guy's interviewed by the Times says, "That word is not in my, what are you, a faggot?" is what he said. The guy said, "That is not in my vocabulary." Oh, it's trying to remember, people misremember. It's in my vocabulary. I just said it.
Wilton Manors, Florida, which is a very LGBT populated community next to Fort Lauderdale, has banned conversion therapy for minors, becoming the latest locality to do that.
And California's legislature has approved a youth suicide prevention bill. This requires schools to come up with a suicide prevention strategy. Before it was just suggested.
We mourn the death of Bea Kreloff, 90 years old. She was an artist, lesbian, and a fantastic activist for so many years. I used to run into her at every feminist conference, demonstration, everything.
Got a picture of her there.
We do have a picture of Bea. There she is. She just was a terrific personality and a great organizer, anti-war activist, as I say, feminist, lesbian. She leaves a partner, Edith Isaac Rose, 2 sons, a granddaughter. They ran an arts program in Italy that was, I'm sorry I'm not an artist, because it sounds like it would have been just amazing fun to be part of that. She was a terrific presence and will be much missed in the activist community.
And we told you about the passing of Michigan gay leader Jeff Montgomery a couple of weeks ago, and there's going to be a memorial service for him on Saturday, September 17th at 11 a.m. at the McGregor Conference Center at Wayne State University. Yes, in Detroit. We'll have that in our email. If you'd like to be on our email list, by the way, to get these things all written down for you, go to our website. That's gayusatv.org, gayusatv, and there's a place you can sign up for our weekly emails, and we send out things like this.
And if you want more details on Jeff Montgomery's memorial, you can check out the Equality Michigan site, because they're part of organizing this. It should be, I'm sorry I'm not in Detroit, it should be quite an event.
So the Human Rights Campaign Dinner this year, they're getting Tim Kaine as their keynote speaker on, when is it? September the 10th in Washington, and John Lewis is also going to speak.
Okay.
All right, international news?
You bet.
Well, our friend down there, Caleb,
Caleb
Orozco, 42,
yes, in Belize.
he got the sodomy law overturned in Belize, but so they looked at it in Antigua and Barbuda, of the buggery law, and they say, well, they're not going to change their law. Maybe you're going to make us do it, because the way our courts work is very similar to Belize.
Yeah, bring a lawsuit. We do have some constitutional guarantees about human rights.
Well, hey. New York State's legislature would not repeal the sodomy law.
Yeah.
It took until 1980 for the Court of Appeals to do that.
No, because these people do not want to go on the record as voting in favor of sodomy.
And in Australia, they don't want to go on the record on voting on same-sex marriage. This is a continuing saga. The Parliament is back in session there. The Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull said, "No, we're not going to have a vote in the Parliament. We're having a referendum or a plebiscite, which we're not going to be bound by." Which is going to cost $160 million.
The only reason Turnbull will not hold a vote in Parliament is because he's in a coalition government that includes the Conservatives. They will kick him out of office.
That's true in Germany as well. Angela Merkel will not hold a vote for the same reason.
Exactly. These Conservatives, in very small numbers, control these legislatures, and in lots of places in the United States, too. In the United States House of Representatives, the Tea Party controls the Republicans. If the moderate Republicans would vote with the Democrats, they could control Congress, but they allow the Tea Party to hold them.
They're afraid of Tea Party primaries.
Yes. And Turnbull is afraid of being thrown out of office.
The development is that the Labor Party down there says, we're stopping this plebiscite. So if we have to wait 3 years, we'll wait 3 years, but we're stopping it.
Meanwhile, in Australia, in Sydney, a 62-year-old man went into a gay club and put hydrochloric acid in the lube dispenser.
Thank goodness no one was harmed, because they were kind of on alert that the place was being sabotaged from time to time and vandalized. And this could have led to some horrible problem for somebody, and they stopped him. It's interesting in the Australian press, they don't name defendants when they're arrested.
Only when they're convicted?
Yes. It's true in some other countries, too.
Not a terrible idea.
No.
But a very terrible idea. In Iraq, in Mosul, again, ISIS taking credit for killing 4 men for sodomy. 2 of them ISIS members, thrown off the tops of buildings, stoned on the ground when they were already dead. Terrible. We're not showing you pictures of that.
But we will show you a picture of the Manitoba First Pride Parade in Portage La Prairie. There it is. It drew a small group of protesters, but dozens marched in the city's first ever parade.
And the mayor marched, too. Portage La Prairie is just west of Winnipeg and a very small town in Canada. In Mexico, we told you they were going to have a big LGBT conference in Cuernavaca, First National LGBT Conference. A lot came out of there, a couple new groups, a lot of demands for LGBT rights. And some plans for major marches coming up on behalf of LGBT rights. Meanwhile, the right wing is planning their own marches. It's heating up a lot in Mexico.
I hope there was a march against Trump today as we were taping.
I hope there was a lot of scorn heaped on
Also in Mexico, the Liberace of Mexico, Juan Gabriel, really a gay icon down there, who never spoke about his sexuality, has died. He was
heart attack at 66.
He was once a big star. In 2002, he was asked, about if he was gay, and he said, "You don't ask about what can be seen." What he was basically saying is, look at me.
It's farther than Liberace ever went.
Well, Liberace sued you if you said he was gay.
Yeah. Juan Gabriel was an icon and a huge hero. Mark Anthony did a big tribute to him after his death at a concert of his. He was universally beloved.
Well, Liberace was very popular and beloved, too.
Not by everybody.
Yes.
Yeah. And in Bermuda, after all the to and froing they did about legislating over civil partnerships and marriage, a gay couple is going to court to sue for marriage rights. The court has been sympathetic. It's the legislature which has been messing around. All right, AIDS and health news.
Well, attention, folks, in the Los Angeles area. There's an outbreak of a bacterial infection there, shigellosis, which has infected at least 9 men in the Los Angeles area whose sexual orientation has been determined. And, many others may be gay, but they don't know about their sexual orientation. Actually, 4 have been determined to be gay, and others may have been. So anyway, this is
Did you say 1 dead and 3 hospitalized?
No, yeah, it's deadly.
It's ingestion of fecal material with bacterial infection can do it, so oral, anal contact is not a great idea. You can also get it from contaminated food, and the defining characteristic is severe diarrhea,
Right.
and you should get yourself right to the hospital.
Right.
It can be treated with antibiotics, but you need immediate care.
But it doesn't matter because we're all going to die of Zika virus because the government, our incompetent government, is not funding it properly. Their money is running out. And now we have from Maryland, Zika is being sexually transmitted by somebody without symptoms. This is for the first time there. He had no idea he had it. He gave it to his female partner. He had been traveling in the Dominican Republic. But the government funds are almost out on this. This is just insane, folks. I mean, I thought after we went through AIDS, we would learn from this and be more responsive to these outbreaks, but apparently not.
Well, it's a very confounding situation because, do you screen everybody, and how often? People get bitten by mosquitoes all the time. And while it seems predominant in certain areas, it really could be anywhere.
Yes, but the money is... Yes, go ahead.
Well, I'm just saying, what do you do?
What you do is you get a Manhattan Project effort on getting a cure for this thing, which they're working on, but they need funding to do it.
Yes. So that you can be vaccinated or cured.
The FDA has called on all blood banks to screen donations for the virus, even in states where it's not circulating.
Well, speaking of blood donations or blood banks, there's a very interesting development in Canada. A Toronto gay man has filed a human rights complaint against the blood donation ban for men who've had sex with other men in the last year. Now, Canada, the U.S., other countries have liberalized their policies to go from no blood donations by gay men to then there was an exclusion of 5 years, and now it's down to 1 year. But it's still an exclusion that excludes basically any gay man who's sexually active. And he is filing a complaint saying that this is a human rights violation and that it has left him feeling of very little value to be told that he can't donate blood.
This may seem controversial, but if you're 100% sure you don't have the virus and you lied on the form about your sexual activity, you know you're not risking anything. They're going to test the blood anyway, but you know you're not risking anybody else's health. You can give blood. That would be a way to protest it.
Yes, but if you're going to protest it, do you then inform them at some point that you've done that?
If you're feeling the way this guy is, I'm saying there's a way to give blood.
Yes, there is, and I'm sure many people do.
I know some who do. And they're not being bad people.
No, not
They're lying on the form, but they're not being bad people.
Artificial constructs. I've developed a theme for the program.
Okay.
All right, entertainment news.
All right.
Who do we have first? Nate Parker?
Oh, yeah, Nate. Well, Nate Parker is the maker of this film, Birth of a Nation.
Which we've been looking forward to.
It's about the Nat Turner Rebellion, slave rebellion. A lot of buzz about it.
Coleman Domingo's in it?
Yeah. The first thing that came out about him was that, there was a rape charge against him when he was in college.
Nate Parker.
Nate Parker. He was cleared of it. One of his co-creators was also in on that. And so that came out, and he was not hiding that. It was on his Wikipedia page, for God's sakes. But then there were these quotes from a past interview where he said, "I refuse to allow any piece of work to emasculate me for very specific reasons, even though that shrinks the pool. I would to preserve the black man. You will never see me take a gay role." Now, this was not an old interview, but not that long ago. Well, he's been on a apology tour about the, trying to explain his attitude towards the rape thing as well, and this, and he said, look, that was homophobic, it was wrong, and I don't feel that way, and he's been educated.
Yes.
Even though there are some people who say they won't see the film now, for a variety of reasons.
In part because of the rape charge, too.
Well, which he was cleared of. I mean, the thing with the rape charge is that the woman subsequently committed suicide, which has really made people, like, oy.
Yeah.
And, but we don't know all the circumstances there. Legally, he was cleared.
Contrarily, we have Frank Ocean, who made news 4 years ago as a new young singer when he put out an album and talked about his first sexual experience having been with another man. And the album was highly praised, critically acclaimed, very popular. But then we've heard nothing since, and everybody has been much anticipating his next effort.
Where's the new album, Frank? So he releases it, on his own?
Well, here's the deal. He had a contract with a record company, which he evidently didn't like. So he puts out this 45-minute music video thing online.
Here's your album.
Which fulfills the contract with the record company. And then the next day releases his real new album called Blonde.
And it's the third highest album for sales
Apple.
for an album in its first week this year.
And it ends up #1 on the charts, and everybody is critically acclaiming this. So he's a big hit, but probably not with his old record company.
And he has songs about relationships with other men and blah, blah, blah. And he has certainly become a gay rights icon.
Absolutely, and very fluid in his sexuality and very open to many interpretations and experiences, and a great youth role model, I think, and certainly a different model from the past homophobia of men, white, black, Latino, Asian, whatever.
Yeah, it's quite a breakthrough.
Who would put up a wall and say...
For show business.
Yeah. He's an example of someone who has succeeded. When he first talked about this 4 years ago, people thought, I don't know, Frank, that could be the end of your career. I think you're going to have a very limited appeal.
But turns out they like him. They really like him.
Absolutely. So congratulations to him.
So we finally saw in the movies the Florence Foster Jenkins movie.
In part because our good friend Donald Collop, who...
There's the stars of the show, Hugh Grant on the right there, and Meryl Streep as Florence Foster Jenkins, and as her accompanist Simon Helberg, who you recognize from The Big Bang Theory.
So Donald took us to the movies because he is one of the world's authorities on Florence Foster Jenkins and made a great documentary about her 9 years ago.
Yes, and she's the famous society dame who was a patron of the arts, who had aspirations of concert grandeur, and did a concert in 1944, a very famous concert in 1944 at Carnegie Hall, which all centers around this. And the thing is, she couldn't sing. Well, she could sing, and it was horribly off-key. And that's what this is about. And
it is. And I think a lot of people think, yeah, I'm sure it's okay, but really. But it turns out to be an adorable movie.
Yes.
We enjoyed it very much. Congratulations to Donald, who has a consultant credit on the movie and supplied some materials for them. And I think we would absolutely recommend this movie.
I found it to be very sweet. I found it to be very moving, especially the relationship between Florence Foster Jenkins and her accompanist. Now, she recruited somebody who could play piano for her. By the way, Simon Helberg actually plays the piano. He is a pianist in this. And of course, it's all the conflicts that he feels about associating. He wants to have a musical career, right, but he's associating with this woman who can't sing. And of course, Hugh Grant plays her common law husband, who is younger, but has enabled her throughout her life and to do what she does. And they're all very complicated relationships. And
But look, Simon Helberg, as the accompanist,
Cosme McMoon,
is subtly portrayed as gay.
Well, Yeah, and maybe not so subtle. I mean,
Well,
let's not give too much away.
There are some flirtations in there that are clear. So, but it's not stereotypically done.
And it's very funny.
Yeah.
So we'll highly recommend Florence
it.
Foster Jenkins.
We would
in a theater near you.
For those of you who are fans of Fun Home, which is closing September 10th here in New York, but starting a national tour. If you are in New York and haven't seen it, please run and see Fun Home before it closes in a week. But some of the creators and stars are going to show up at the LGBT Community Center on Tuesday, September 13th.
Oh, boy.
Right after it closes at 7 p.m. Lisa Crone and Janine Tesori, who wrote it and wrote the music, and Michael Cerveris and Judy Kuhn, who play the parents, are all going to be at the center to talk about Fun Home, 7 p.m. on Tuesday, September 13th, and that should be quite an event.
Yes, and I don't recommend too many shows. My theater recommendations in New York and London are included in our emails, but I really loved Curious Incident of the Dog in the Nighttime.
I liked it too.
It too is closing on September the 4th. But
this weekend.
It's got a North American tour that launches on September 27th in Rochester and is going to be throughout the country. You can just go to, I didn't put this up, but it'll be in the email, curiousbroadway.com, and it's really playing all over the country for a year, and you can check out that show. It's about a boy on the spectrum, as they say, and it's a fantastic story, one of the most theatrical things I've ever seen. Very
well produced, and check out the Fun Home National Tour too, because that's going to be quite controversial, of course, because there you have an out lesbian played at several different stages of life.
Don't we have an out lesbian hosting a show called Ellen?
We do, but I think going into the intimacy of these theaters around the country, and people are cognitively dissonant. So.
I think they can handle it in America.
I predict.
I think Fun Home is going to make America great again.
Oh, I hope so, but it may jangle a
What
few
are
nerves.
you worried about? Gus Cunworthy went on Family Feud. Right? The out Olympic free skier. He's a contestant there. And his charity that he's going to dedicate things to is something called Happy Hippie Foundation for LGBT at-risk youth. And Steve Harvey says, really? He says, I guess I don't get that part, If it's my kid, it's my kid. I don't know how I could stop loving my kid, man. That ain't getting ready to happen, he says. So, this is on a game show.
Okay. I have never thought of Steve Harvey as particularly LGBT friendly, but maybe I'm not giving him credit.
He's had apparently some problems in the past, but he had he stood up for, who was it? There was some controversy. Maybe it was around something with Ellen or something, hosting something, and he was totally in there
that does ring a bell.
Being supportive of her.
Well, people are not necessarily so supportive of Matt Bomer, out gay actor, who worried about whether he would get roles as an out gay actor.
I like Matt. He did The Normal Heart.
Yes, but now he is playing a trans character in a new movie called Anything, based on, I guess, a play. It's the story of a Southern widower man who gets into a relationship with a trans woman played by Matt Bomer. And the trans community is raising some questions about why you have Matt Bomer playing a trans woman instead of a trans woman playing a trans woman.
Well,
Mark Ruffalo is executive producing this.
I think, well, of course, they worked together on The Normal Heart.
Yeah.
And they were lovers. I think back to Vanessa Redgrave playing Renee Richards, in a TV movie, et cetera. Yeah, well, look, we complain a lot about gay people not getting gay roles.
Yeah.
But, we also tell you that gay culture is changing and that gay bars are closing all over the place, but they're opening up a gay bar they've opened up a gay bar in Harlem. This guy, Alex.
I'm sure it's not the first.
No. I'm just saying a new bar opening as opposed to
you made it sound like
another one closing.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying.
Okay.
It bucks the trend.
All right.
I'm not surprised there's a gay bar.
I don't want to leave this open for misinterpretation.
Got bathhouses in Harlem. We got a big gay community. The Harlem Renaissance was run by gay people.
That's true.
All right. But this guy, Alexei Minko, who used to work for the United Nations.
Probably Alexei.
Alexei Minko. He's openly gay himself. It's called the Alibi Lounge up there on Adam Clayton Powell Boulevard and West 139th Street. And he's hoping it will become a haven for the LGBT community there.
And I know about an opening for some LGBT roles. Right here on Gay USA.
Oh, that's true. You know, we did put it, first of all, if you came in late on last week's show, you sounded like we were retiring. We are not.
No.
But we are looking for people to fill in for us from time to time, as Chris Cooper does so ably, but he's not always available, especially during birding season.
Check out the HBO documentary on birding. He's in it.
He's a star of it. So we are looking for people. Now, some of you have responded and told us you're interested, but we did ask you, if you're interested, to do a under 5-minute videotape of yourself doing the news, or with someone, or by yourself, showing us what you can do.
With someone might be easier. You know, I've tried doing the news alone for Dyke TV. It's much harder than doing it with a partner, because with a partner you get some
even
relief.
A half-deaf partner like me.
But
Anna's
anyway,
always on my good side.
we would like to see you on camera. We do not expect expertise. But we do want a little journalistic expertise.
Yes.
So also keep in mind, this is, in spite of how we comport ourselves, this is a hard news show. It's not an entertainment show, and although we try to be entertaining, so we want people who are dedicated to talking about the actual news headlines. We also need people who are in New York. We've heard from people who are out of town. You cannot do the show out of town.
I mean,
you must be in New York.
If you were willing to come in on a Wednesday afternoon and help us tape from out of town, yes, that's possible if you really wanted to do it that badly. But it helps to be in New York. In the greater New York area.
You must be in New York on Wednesday afternoons to do it.
So we're looking for videotapes. I haven't gotten any videotapes lately, other than things people have done in other contexts. So, you know, write to me, Andy, at gayusatv.org, if you are interested, and tell us a little bit about yourself. You
can tell us what you think about the show, too. Do you watch the show regularly? Do you
How could you make it better?
What do you like? What do you not like? What are your ideas? We promise not to, you know.
And if that's too much to take on, you can, and you are LGBT and German American, you can march with me and Rick Landman in the Von Steuben Day Parade in New York. This was a gay general who won us the Revolutionary War. You can look that up online. And this is going to be on September 17th at noon. Again, go to infotrue.com, infotrue.com, if you want to learn more about that.
We have a couple of weeks. We'll tell you more about that next week.
And I'll put it in the email.
Okay. That's it. Thank you very much. We'll see you next week.
We have to prepare if we're going to March.
Yeah, lederhosen?
Absolutely not. But it's a free country. Wear whatever you want. Wear a burkini.
We'll see you next week.